So you've clicked on this link because you want to remind yourself of what poetry is and the variety of poetry. You're thinking of making yourself an anthology. What is an anthology? An anthology is a collection of poems which you put together in a book. Julia Donaldson created this anthology, Poems to Perform. So it has a table of contents, a lot of poems in there, and then throughout, Julia Donaldson has put the poems and even illustrated them. So you'd like me to remind you of some poetry craft moves. In this lovely poem from New Zealand, you can see that the poet has written each verse quite separately, but what do you notice at the end of each verse? I can see the words drip, drop, drip, drop, drip, drop, and at the end, flip, flop. That's called a poetry craft, repeating words. Let me read it to you. Hip hop, hoi ho, does not stop. Come out of the sea, drip, drip, drop. Slippy, sloppy seal, here he comes. Hurry, hoi ho, go, go, go. Hip hop, hoi ho, up you stand. Hip hop, hoi ho, on the wet sand. Flippy, floppy seal, here he comes. Wibble, wobble, flip, flop, drip, drop. Hip hop, hoi ho, shh, don't squeal. Don't let that seal have you for a meal. Slippy, sloppy seal, here he comes. Wibble, wobble, flip, flop, drip, drip, drop. Hip hop, hoi ho, run up the beach. Hip hop, hoi ho, nearly out of reach. Plippy, ploppy seal, here he comes. Wibble, wobble, flip, flop, drip, drop. Hip hop, hoi ho, push yourself, push. Hip hop, hoi ho, into the bush. Slippy, sloppy seal, here he comes. Wibble, wobble, flip, flop, drip, drop. Hip hop, hoi ho, into your nest. Hip hop, hoi ho, have a rest. Flippy, floppy seal, there he goes. Slip, slop, wibble, wobble, flip, flop. By Janice Marriott. Do you notice a lot of the words repeat themselves? A lot of the lines repeat themselves. That might be one writer's craft. Poems do not all look the same. Today I feel as pleased as punch, fit as a fiddle, keen as a knife, hot as a griddle, bold as brass, bouncy as a ball, clean as mustard, high as a wall. You can see there that that's not telling a story. Julia Donaldson also wrote The Highway Rat. The Highway Rat is definitely a poem and a story. The other one I read you wasn't a story. The highway rat was a baddie. The highway rat was a beast. He took what he wanted and ate what he took. His life was one long feast. His teeth were sharp and yellow. His manners were rough and rude. And the highway rat went riding, 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 riding along the highway and stealing the traveller's food. This is a whole storybook. And an interesting thing about this is there is a very famous poem called The Highwayman. And Julia Donaldson has taken the rhythm, the pattern of the words, and turned it into The Highway Rat. Here's my question. Well, it's not a question. All poems have to rhyme. Is that right? All poems have to rhyme. Let's see if all poems have to rhyme. I'd like to share with you a poem from New Zealand called Lightning. It's over here. Lightning and thunder, the sky alight, the world reverberates, causing awe and fear. Hot tongue flashing, as Taifirima Tia performs his haka, the sky splits with lightning. It is dark, it is light, It is dark. Now, lots of you speak several languages. That poem definitely didn't rhyme, and it still makes a poem. This poem is also written in the Maori language in New Zealand. The poet has put both poems on the same page, so this is the translation. This poem definitely doesn't rhyme, but I'd love to inspire you also to write some poems in your own language. I'd like to remind you that the Epic app is a fantastic resource and has poetry books in it. I found a great book with haiku poems in it. Maybe you've heard of that, maybe you haven't. It's a special type of poem called a haiku. Maybe, if you have a look in this, you will find a poetry book that inspires you, and also you may see different types of poems and the way the poet has laid them out on the page. Maybe that'll be another way to get ideas, to be inspired if you're keen to write a poetry anthology.